Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Well, I don't know how many of you still get the newspaper. I mean, most of you, I guess, are online. But I'm one of those older guys that get the newspaper. And I got to tell you, I go over my front door, grab the newspaper, take a gander at the front page, see what's really going on, and maybe spend 10 seconds on the front page, and go right to this section of the newspaper, page 3, which is equivalent to the New York page 6.
It's our version of it.
Star version, yeah. Called a Cats, with this handsome devil, John Katsilometes.
Got it.
I said it right.
You got it.
I got it right.
Yeah.
And because this is what's really going on around town. And what I like about your column is that it has this mixture, this integration of celebrities and locals. Mm-hmm. And then you bold them in black. So you can just scan through the column. Is there a name that catches one's attention? And if so, bingo.
That is the template. You've identified it. Yeah, and the big challenge is to balance the locals with the celebs, especially in the print edition. We do a lot of we create quite a bit of content online these days. It's a multimedia world, a digital world. As you know, I do a lot of social media and all these different things. But the core of it is that print column, and to satisfy the appetite of the local reader, and to satisfy the appetite of someone coming in from out of town, an international reader, is the challenge, and to try and mix it up and give the locals their just due, and give the Adeles and the Taylor Swifts, and the superstars attention as well, because those are the names that drive readership.
So you go by John or Katz? What's your preferred?
Usually Katz.
method?
It's interesting. My name's John Katsilometes, and my dad's Greek and my mom's Italian. So my mom says that makes me Italian.
Oh, you eat pretty well then, right?
I have always eaten pretty well. When you have an Italian mother, Yeah. But over the years, it's become Johnny, and Johnny Katz is kind of the loose title of it. So my grandfather on my mom's side was known as Johnny Santa. So I inherited the Johnny. So usually people just, when they're shouting at me across the room, they say Katz.
How did you get into this?
It's, through high school, really, through my developmental years living in Chico, California. I went to high school at Pleasant Valley High School in Chico, California. I'll put it there. And that happens to be the same high school Aaron Rodgers went to. And I had some teachers at that level who understood that I knew how to write pretty well inherently. And I had a talent for that. And I was also real athletic in those days. So right after high school, I got a job at the local paper as a sports writer, Chico Enterprise Record. And that's where it all started for me. And it just, as you move along in life and your career, I went from Chico to Redding, California as a sports writer, covering local sports, local, the scene, the sports scene in those days. 1996, I got hired by the Review-Journal to cover the UNLV basketball program.
And at that time, we had Norm was doing the entertainment at that time?
Soon after I moved here, I spent a couple of years at the RJ as a sports writer, and I went over to the Greenspun Media Group in Las Vegas Sun and was doing all different things, feature writing. Right as I was going over to the Sun, the RJ hired Norm to do the 3A column, and he became I think we had thought of him as like the strip, celeb journalist, and he kind of initiated the modern day version of what I'm doing. And he was there for 17 years on 3A. And then I started doing the Katz Report at Greenspun Media Group in 2009 through, I was doing a lot of different things up to that point. The Katz Report is Katz, and I've been doing that since then. But Norm was the one who created the template for what 3A is in the RJ today.
Norm's still around?
Mm-hmm. I had lunch with him a couple months ago, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, he's writing a book.
Oh, good. Well, I'm sure he's got a lot to say.
We had a really great lunch. It was Norm and David Kervin, the great PR executive of Kervin Doak Communications, and I. Norm, Dave, and I. Yeah, it was great.
People love to talk about old Las Vegas. In the past. Your past may be not as long as some of the, maybe as Norm's past. and some guys go back to the 40s and the 50s, right? I mean, what is it about Las Vegas that is so intriguing to so many people?
Las Vegas, I get that all the time. The city used to be a certain way. You would have loved it if you had covered the city in the 60s, in the 70s through the Rat Pack heyday, and all that is still around. That vibe is still, we're still trying to capture that. I think there's a certain panache about Las Vegas, a certain amount of, you come here and you kind of lose your inhibitions and you get to act like a grown-up. And there's that kind of sensibility about the city that was pretty much established by the Rat Pack individuals in that era. You can go back to all the entertainers who were around in those days who were superstars and came here to get loose and entertain each other. The Rat Pack, Elvis Presley, Tom Jones. You go on and on. Wayne Newton in his heyday. It was certainly in the middle of all that. We had so many superstars here that kind of. Whether they intended to or not, became the model for what happens here stays here. They were kind of that way naturally.
Acted that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they made it their own little playground at some respect.
They ran the clock and got crazy, and we still, gravitate toward that ideal here in Las Vegas. We still think of ourselves as a place where you come to
make some trouble, but not too much trouble.
Right, legal trouble.
When you first started doing the entertainment, I know that resources are so important to what you do, right? I mean, you got to get the gossip, right? I mean,
Yeah.
How do you go about developing resources?
By being out, first of all, going out into the field and living in Las Vegas, for lack of a better term. I'm out every night. I go to all as many big things as I can and get to know people that way and reconnect with people that way. And that is the lifeblood of what I do, newsmakers and information from and about newsmakers. So you have to establish sort of a baseline of people in the field. And I know a lot of people now these days because I've been around for a long time, since '96. And, I've established some measure of relationship with pretty much every meaningful newsmaker for our newspaper in this city. Then you do work the phones. I mean, there's no substitute for just, now these days it's texting, it's checking in on people. I'm on the phone all the time. During the day, I'm on either on the phone, texting, or writing throughout the day, and then I'm out at night.
I can remember, a lot of times people would use bellhops and and concierges. Are they still resources?
Yeah, they are. The front of house people are and even back of house people are. They know what's going on in their establishment, usually resort, hotel, casinos, and the people who are the first in line to interact with anybody are great resources. They know what's going on, even sometimes more than the top executives do about what's going on in that hotel. Something like you might hear. Well, we just covered the Secret Garden at the Mirage is shutting down. When the Hard Rock moves in and takes over the Mirage. There was murmurs about this from that level of employee for a long time.
Is that become a negative issue there?
I don't know. It doesn't have to be a negative issue in this instance. I think in that case, I think it was destiny. I think it was going to go away anyway over time. I think it was sort of moving in the direction. Even if the Mirage had held on to or MGM Resorts had held on to the Mirage, I think you might have seen it kind of just gradually, close over time. But and all the employees know that this is going on. They get word around. You talk to the staff at the Secret Garden. They talk to servers and valets, and that's how information works.
Yeah. Is Adele our #1 star in Las Vegas?
Currently, she is the #1. She's the lightning rod currently because she just opened, and there was such a long run-up, a lot of hype, and a lot of tension created, frankly, about the opening of that show. And she's an international star. She's one of the best-selling female artists ever. And she has just started. So right at this moment, she's the hottest resident headliner in Las Vegas. Now, talk to me in a few months. Garth Brooks is moving in. Bruno Mars is coming back. We'll probably be starting to forecast when Lady Gaga might be coming back. Those types. Celine hasn't announced she's coming back yet either. That's one out there. So Las Vegas is there's always a rotation, but right now she is the hot draw. She's the topic of discussion.
And how have salaries skyrocketed? A star. Let's compare somebody like Adele to a Sinatra.
You know, I don't know what Sinatra's guarantee. I would have to look all this up. His guarantee was to play like at at Caesar's Palace or at the Copa Room at the Sands.
Right.
The model is a lot different today. But if you were to prorate it, I would say, you know, I've seen reports that Adele makes anywhere from, I'm going off pure memory here, but like $1 million up to $2 million a weekend, and as a guarantee, and that is a lot. And that's what these superstars command. You know what the ticket prices have been on the for her shows, base ticket price, secondary market. But she drives a lot of business, and Sinatra in those days also drove a lot of business, not only for his hotel but for all the hotels around him.
Right.
You know, that was Frank Sinatra was business for every, you know, whatever the 6 casinos were that he wasn't playing in, you know, because the high rollers had come in when he was in town at other properties. But we do know that when people come in to see Adele at the Coliseum at Caesar's Palace on Fridays and Saturdays, a lot of them are traveling from overseas or from over distance. They're coming into the hotel. A lot of them stay there, or stays at, you know, at a hotel nearby. They're shopping. They're dining. They're doing fine dining. A lot of them. They buy merch. They spend money. They gamble still. So and you have an immeasurable level of free media, news media, mass media, social media from people like me that you can't put a price tag on, you know. And Adele has dominated when she opened, she kind of dominated my column online and in print for several days.
So having that star power is not only because one is popular, but one can draw into Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Additional monies.
Yeah.
Right. Resources.
You want with her, and any of them, first and foremost, it's to attract an audience that will come into Las Vegas and spend money, not just on that visit, but over time.
Right.
And that's why entertainment has been so important to Las Vegas historically, is for that reason.
You know, Ticketmaster's been in the news a lot lately. Personally, it's very aggravating when you go out and you purchase a ticket to any one of the shows in Las Vegas, and you know you can purchase a ticket for, say, it's $120. You buy 2 tickets, $240. Then all of a sudden they start tacking on fees and taxes, and you're up $100 more to buy tickets.
Yeah.
And you really have no alternative, right? And I'm sure the artists are not happy about this. It's not they're not getting the money.
Yeah.
You know, and I know there's some lawsuits going on, as the Department of Justice is looking into.
Exactly.
But recently, you know, what happened with Taylor Swift? I don't quite know the facts of what happened with Taylor Swift and those tickets with Ticketmaster.
Well, what happened with Taylor Swift is Ticketmaster put her on what they call their verified fan program, and what that is you sign up to have the right to buy a ticket, and if you make it through that kind of lottery system, you get on the Ticketmaster site, you sign up. If you get a code back, then you jump in, and then you will find a path to tickets somewhere in the run. Now, Taylor Swift, it wasn't a residency. She's a one-off, or now 2-off. She added a show at Allegiant Stadium. That's March 24th and March 25th, which, by the way, coincides with Adele's closing dates. Yeah. Adele and Taylor Swift are playing Las Vegas at the same time. That's big in the entertainment industry, to have them both in the same city at the same time performing. What happened was the demand for her tickets was so great, upwards of 14 million requests, that Ticketmaster said, we're just going to go with everybody because they were supposed to save some tickets for general public after verified fan, a certain percentage. They said it's not going to make any sense for us to put any of these tickets on public sale after all these fans have already registered. So they just closed and sold all the tickets up front. That made a lot of people mad, because they were thinking that they were going to be able to go to on sale.
And they waited for hours on the telephone.
A lot of them. They had a system crash. That didn't help matters. They couldn't handle the demand. The system was going down. There were many complaints about this from fans. And also, they moved the on-sale time back in Las Vegas and in the West by 3, maybe even 5 hours. I think it was supposed to go 10 a.m. and it was 3 p.m. here. That was a sign that the system wasn't prepared for this demand. Taylor Swift's point, when she came back at them, she claimed that Ticketmaster was supposed to have insured her that they had the apparatus ready and the infrastructure ready to handle this problem, and she, in her hands, they were not, and she's upset with Ticketmaster. In the face of all this is a Department of Justice investigation about antitrust violation that preceded this instance. Was before Taylor Swift. They were looking into the monopoly created by, or they allege, or reviewing, between Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Live Nation and Ticketmaster, in about a decade ago, I think it was 2010, created Live Nation Entertainment. So they're working together, the largest ticket seller with the largest concert live entertainment promoter in the world, and in Las Vegas.
And only with each other.
and you can imagine that now, Taylor Swift has usually worked with AEG, which is a rival of Live Nation nationally, but she had to use the Ticketmaster format and platform to sell these particular tickets. We're going to go into an investigation from our elected officials in Washington, and I think that there's going to be a lot of very emotional and very impactful testimony about this over the course of time about this issue, because it's become, because of this issue with the Ticketmaster, the secondary market, what we call StubHub and Las Vegas tickets and
reselling tickets,
has become, in a lot of ways, the way to get tickets. And you go to them, and they set their own prices when they get a hold of tickets, and they get resale tickets themselves and put them on sale. So my ticket to Adele was through Viagogo. I happened to get one through there, and I got a deal. I was lucky. You track these, and every once in a while, the ticket will pop up for some really low rate. For whatever reason, the seller wants to get rid of it quick. So I went to Adele on opening night here in Las Vegas and sat in a section that had been well over $1,000 on show night for $280. And that's what I got it for.
So what is the solution to all this, John? Is it only the wealthy can afford to go to concerts? The solution, part of the problem here is what you identified, is that when you go in to buy a ticket, tell me what the price of the ticket is going in with the fees. Include the fees. At least I know. Right. At least if this ticket's going to cost me, is that me? It is for you.
It's probably Ticketmaster. But if this ticket's going to cost me $300, tell me up front. And I can plan for it, or I can back off. Don't tell me it's going to be $160 and then try to charge me whatever the number is. That's one solution, is to include the fees, or somehow eradicate some of the fees, the handling fees, and all these, the half tax, surtax, all that stuff. And also, I think it is I think it's going to be beholden on the artists to collectively get together and come up with some sort of ticket selling plan. The Garth Brooks is another one. He just went on sale recently. His tickets were $2,000 in the orchestra section for Garth Brooks, who's very conscious of this issue over history. To get together and say, you know what, have some sort of, I would recommend some sort of superstar coalition with the Garth Brooks, Adele, Springsteen, the Stones, all of the ones that command these high prices, and say, look, this is what we recommend. And take it to the public.
And what would that be, like a percentage of the value of the ticket, of the face value?
I think that there would be great to have some sort of cap on tickets, period, and some sort of fair and equitable way for the fans to grab those tickets. And what that is, I'm still trying to sort out, but that is the base need here, because people who are fans want to know that they can get tickets. But it's been like this forever. Not everybody got to see Elvis Presley here in Las Vegas. You know that. The big. But
then you could deal with a maitre d' in those days. I did see Elvis at the International.
Yeah.
In those
Okay.
Days.
Yeah.
But it was all about the maitre d'.
Yeah, the maitre d' owned an island, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also there's a couple new shows in town. The Win has a new one, Awakenings. It's Cirque, is it a Cirque?
No, it reminds people a lot of Cirque, but it's from Baz Halpin's company. And Baz's company also produces things like the Katy Perry show at Resorts World Theater. He had Cher's original show at the Coliseum. He does these massive tour productions. He's part of it. Michael Curry, the great puppeteer who brought Lion King to the stage. His work was his work is still in Ka. His little sand crabs is Michael Curry. So those are, great choreography. Those are some of the main people in it, and that's the money behind it. And the hotel, Wynn, is also a co-producer. So they've conceived a $120 million multifaceted technologically advanced stage show in the theater where Le Rêve used to be. And that has just opened and is running now. It's a beautiful show. It's a beautiful show.
Is that an indication that Cirque is, when it's way down, that that Wynn replaces Le Rêve?
No, I don't think so. Le Rêve wasn't a Cirque show either. It was a Franco Dragone show. It reminded people a lot of Cirque, as Awakening does. Yeah, because it reminded people a lot of O, because it was an aquatic show. I don't think Cirque is going anywhere. I just interviewed Daniel Lamar, their head executive out of Montreal a couple of weeks ago, and they're doing as much business this year as they did in 2019 in Las Vegas. Their gross revenue.
That's a good sign.
That is a key thing, because when they lost, all 44 shows were down during COVID. All of them internationally.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you were right in the thick of this whole, all the COVID shutdowns. I mean, you work very closely with the producers, the entertainers, the musicians, the stagehands. I mean, take us back 2 years.
Well, I think the thing that happened during COVID was everybody dropped at the same time in the same way. So it wasn't unique to any particular show or production company or entertainment subculture. Everybody went dark at the same time. They all figured out ways to create online. So we had all of our performers who might have been doing shows around town, and we're now doing things live stream digitally. That became a thing. There was a lot of charity stuff going on in those days, trying to help each other. So there was a lot of activity then. There was a lot of support out there. The Save Our the Venues grant that came out for a lot of the producers. Many of them got several million, SVOG they called it. That helped sustain a lot of production companies. The money that came in, several $1 million.
The federal government money?
Yeah, this is public money. Yeah. And it helped the Smith Center. They got the grant money to keep their operations in order for when everything was going to come back, because we knew it was going to come back at some point. That helped everybody, maintain some level of professional activity for when the shows reopened. So then we had Cirque reopen, then we had Spiegel World Show, Absinthe, the Atomic Saloon Show, and Opium all came back, and they all started lurching back and trying to, first, at distant capacities, 50 feet apart, 50 people in a room, then it was 250, and dealing with all the requirements to the point where most of them were able to get back on stage. But it took a lot of, it was a painful experience for a lot of these people who were used to performing for a living, used to putting on shows, used to being stagehands and creating, to be down for that long. But we are seeing, at least in a lot of areas, that most of the shows are back. Now they just need to find their audiences. They have to get the ticket buyers to notice them again. And that's where we are right now.
And we have more and more venues.
Yes.
And new ones coming online, right?
Yeah. If you look even back to like 2015, in that era, no T-Mobile Arena. Right. No Allegiant Stadium. We had nothing like Allegiant Stadium. Right. And so we have an NFL team here now. We have a professional women's basketball team. We have the Golden Knights. We have so many more things to do in Las Vegas that inevitably will cut into the appeal and the ticket selling viability of a lot of the stage shows in town that we're used to seeing. So a lot of shows, I've heard business numbers are very erratic for a lot of these shows, including Cirque. I can tell you, Awakening still needs to find its a healthy audience. Bat Out of Hell at the Paris Theater, we haven't talked about that. A new show at Paris Theater, great rock musical in that category. Freestyle Love Supreme, the Lin-Manuel Miranda created hip hop improv show. It just opened. Same thing. They're great shows. They're great content, but they really need to reach out and find and nab these people who are coming back into Las Vegas and remind them of the value of live entertainment.
And at the same time, they're all competing for a lot of the same audience.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Awakening. When I was talking to Daniel Lamar, I asked him if he'd seen Awakening, and he said, yeah. And he says, it's beautiful to look at. They spend a lot of money. And then he made the point that I've been thinking of. And he's a Cirque guy, mind you, because I don't know if that's the show I would send somebody to ahead of O or Ka or MJ1. It's in that. Now, what do you do? I'm thinking that too. What if my person comes into Las Vegas, they want to see one killer show?
And what would that be?
That I would probably now, if they haven't seen Cirque, I'd probably send them to a Cirque du Soleil show. I'd probably send them to O. If they have seen that and they want to see that, I'd send them to Awakening.
How many times have you seen O?
At least I see it annually, probably at least 20 times.
Wow.
Maybe 25.
What show have you seen more than any other show or entertainer?
I've seen Absinthe more often probably than any production show, because I have seen it over the years. Anytime they have a new act, and there's, anniversary, the benchmark shows, and I've had a lot of friends in the show. I go in there, I take family in there. So I've seen it more than 50 times. I think Emily Gillette is the only one who's seen it more than me. As far as headliners, I think I would have to say I probably have seen Carrot Top more than any other individual headliner. Yeah, and he's a buddy of mine. That's why. So every once in a while we'll just be texting. He's like, "Come into the show tonight. We'll go out for pizza afterwards."
Yeah. Hey, you
so those are the big ones.
You mentioned the Knights. You mentioned the Raiders. So if your background in sports and your background in entertainment, is all of a sudden the sports names coming up on the entertainment?
Yeah.
Is there a bleed through there?
Yeah. There is, you see me at the Raiders games on Sundays, and that is usually because I'm following somebody like Carlos Santana around, who's performing at the John Fogerty.
Right.
And Marie Osmond sang the national anthem. I know her. So their entertainment program, the Raiders bring in, definitely comes into my territory. I was involved in when they decided on David Perico and the Raiders house band. I covered that whole thing, and I know that in that case, and in the Golden Knights case before the Raiders, they put a high emphasis on entertainment value in their arenas and in the stadium, in part because, you're in Las Vegas, and there is such a wide collection of. You can bring in Cirque, you can bring in Blue Man Group, you can bring in Fogerty when he's here. Santana has a residency here. Let's get him in there. I can tell you they're making a push to get Billy Gibbons as ZZ Top in that Raider lineup somehow, and so that becomes 3A material for sure. Mark Davis himself is really involved in the Raider entertainment strategy. Yeah, so he's always good to talk to.
Yeah, well, look, there's so much to do here. I mean, we can just go on and on and on. But I'm sure you're asked all the time by family and friends. Who is the number one headliner that you would go see in Las Vegas who hasn't been here yet?
Who hasn't played here yet?
Yes.
As a resident headliner?
Yeah, we got about 15 seconds left. Somebody who...
Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen.
Good answer.
And you too.
Hey, you can you can catch them in the Review Journal, 3A. It's the most important page in the newspaper. Catch them online too. Johnny Katz.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Anytime, man.
When sorry is not enough. Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.